I'm Troy Maris. If it's your first time to the channel, welcome. Pumped to have you here. If you've been to the channel before, then glad to have you back. If you've been here before, then you've likely heard me use this quote because it's something that I truly believe, and it's that the difference between an amateur and a professional is in the way that we prepare our work. And I think that applies to just about every profession out there. But in today's video, we're going to apply that principle to the way that we prep our Canon C70 the night before a shoot. And I've designed this checklist to be very meticulous so that we're not forgetting things and we don't get on set and we're missing a media card or we're missing a battery. But I've also designed this checklist to be useful for any camera system. It doesn't have to be the C70 that you're using. You can take this and adapt it to the camera system that you shoot on. So it's going to be good for everybody. Let's get into the checklist. I've made this exact checklist that we're going to go through in this video available for download in the description of the video. It doesn't cost anything. It's just an asset that I use and thought you might want to use it as well to help you sleep a little bit better the night before your shoot, knowing that you've got everything that you're going to need and you don't have to lay awake trying to go through your gear checklist in your head. This helps with that. So let's dive in. The first section of this checklist is going to be really kind of obvious, but it's there for a reason, and that is to just assemble all of the gear that we're going to need to pull off a successful shoot tomorrow. Now, that begins with the camera body or camera bodies, and in my case, I shoot on one Canon C70, and then if I need a B cam for a specific shoot, I'll bring the Canon R7 with me. So step one, assemble camera bodies, and I'm going to see if I can find a pen. I do have a pen. Camera bodies have been assembled. Perfect. It's important to go through this step by step. I know it seems obvious to bring your camera body. I get it. But there's something about being systematic in our approach to preparation that will really help us be consistent and not forget anything. Next thing is we're going to need power for our cameras, and this could come in the form of batteries or power supply. On my Canon C70, I use a BPA 60 is my primary battery source, and really that lasts me all day. I do also bring either a second BPA 30 or sometimes a BPA 60 battery, depending on what the shoot will look like, as a backup. So that's usually what I run with in my own kit. So I'm going to pack for this situation, two BPA 60 batteries. So that will take care of power. So let's go ahead and check that off. The next thing we'll need to grab for our shoot tomorrow are media cards. And for the C70 users, that means we're grabbing some SD cards. I use 128 gigabyte pro grade V90 SD cards in both slots of my C70. And then I also would suggest bringing at least one backup for each. So I'm gonna bring a total of 4 SD cards for my shoot tomorrow. While we're on the topic of media cards, consider anything else that you're going to use tomorrow that might need a media card. And this could be your drone, this could be a field recorder for audio purposes. Grab those as well. And once you have all of your media cards, we're going to check that off the list and move down to lenses. And again, this is going to vary based on how you shoot and how you operate. For me, I'm going to grab 2 lenses that go with me everywhere that I go, and that is my Canon RF 15-35 2.8 as well as my Canon RF 70-200 2.8. Grab the lenses you're going to use the next day. Make sure they have front and rear caps, and we're going to go ahead and check off that from our list. Moving on to audio gear. I'm a cinematographer, I'm a filmmaker, so audio is going to be half of the viewing experience, right? And we need to capture good audio. If you're a photographer, you probably can disregard this section, and props to you because audio is a whole other beast. We're going to grab our audio equipment. So this is going to be any microphones, any field recorders, any lavaliers or body packs that you're going to need. For me, that's going to look like grabbing my Sennheiser 416 as well as the necessary adapter. I've got mine from Blue Condor. It is a mini XLR to XLR adapter, as well as the Canon supplied shock mount and a Rode windscreen. That's going to be an on-camera shotgun mic for me. In addition to my 416, I also have a Tentacle sync system that I use. So I have 2 Tentacle syncs that actually attach to my cameras, the C70, and I have a second one for the R7 when I run a multicam production. And then I also have 2 Track E's by Tentacle, which are 32-bit float recording audio packs. So those are the things that I'm going to grab that may or may not look the same for you. These are the things that I use though. we will go ahead and check off audio gear now that we've got it all collected and move on to filters. Depending on the camera that you're shooting, this could mean bringing ND filters, but as a C70 user, we've got built-in NDs, which I find to be great. I've never needed more than the available 10 stops, so I'm not bringing any NDs. I will bring, though, some circular polarizers, so I'm gonna grab those as well as the cases for them. Those are great for reducing glares on cars or windshields or just any type of glass, as well as bringing out some really nice colors in the sky. If there's a lot of polarized light bouncing around, you can mitigate some of that and get some nice hues out of the sky with a circular polarizer. And then depending on the look of the film that you're going to be shooting tomorrow, any other special effect type filters, this could be a mist filter, for example, bring those, assemble those with the rest of the gear, and make sure you have cases for transporting those filters. Let's go ahead and check those off and move our way down to the last item, and this is just kind of broadly labeled as support items, and I specifically meant tripods for this situation. So I'll bring my tripod, make sure that I have tripod plates to get my cameras onto the actual tripod, but support equipment could also mean like a top handle or a side handle. Support equipment could mean a gimbal if you're going to use a gimbal. I am going to sell mine. I haven't used it in a long time. That's for another video. Yeah, support equipment. Grab all of your support equipment. We're going to check that off the list, and we will have completed section 1, which is just gathering all of our gear and equipment. So let's make our way into section 2, and this is where we're going to begin to actually physically prepare our equipment for the shoot. And this is going to start with cleaning our lenses. So grab yourself a rocket blower. I've got one of these little makeup brush type things that I find quite helpful for getting specks off of the lenses, as well as a good cleaning cloth. And take a minute to actually clean your lenses. I've seen some nasty lenses out there. So wipe down the front elements and wipe down the rear elements as well. And we'll go ahead and check that off of our list of things to do. We'll move on to inspect camera. This is just do a visual inspection of your camera. Make sure there's nothing broken, there's nothing scuffed. Clean up any dust or dirt or debris that might be on it. Take that rocket blower from the step before, because I know that you didn't skip that step, so you've got that rocket blower handy, and go ahead and blow off any dust from the sensor. Just make sure that the camera body is in good shape for the next shoot. And check that off your list. Moving down, wipe off monitors and filters. Again, I know that you have your lens cloth available, so go ahead and wipe off the screen on the back of your C70 or on the back of your camera. You're going to be looking at that thing to monitor your image. So get the fingerprints off of it. Help yourself out a little bit and look at a clean screen. I also have an external monitor that I'm going to pack with me, the Hollyland Mars M1, that goes anywhere my C70 goes. So at this point, I'm also going to wipe off the monitor, get any fingerprints off of those touchscreen surfaces, and check that off the list. Dropping down to charge batteries. Okay, the BPA 60s, the Canon LPs, whatever battery that you have and you're going to need for the next day, get it on a charger and check that off your list. The last thing from physical prep is our audio equipment. So make sure that you have all of the cords that you're going to need in lavalier mics. So for me, I'm going to need, like I said earlier, for my 416, I'm going to need that Blue Condor mini XLR to XLR cable. I'm also going to need at least a 15-foot full-size XLR cable. 25-foot would probably be better. And then I'm also going to need the actual lavalier mics, and I would recommend the Sanken 11D are great lavalier mics that you can plug into just about any recorder that you have out there. So make sure that you have those organized, wrap them up nicely. I keep mine in a pouch, so that way they're easily accessible when I need them on set. We're trying to make things as easy for ourselves tomorrow as we can, so we can focus on the things that actually matter, like composition and lighting and getting quality audio, those types of things. Storytelling even, that would be a novel idea, right? So audio equipment has been physically prepped. Moving on to the back of our checklist now, we're going to move into the next section, which is the in-camera settings. Now, I like to have my C70 set up so that way it is as close to ready to shoot when I pull it out of the camera bag as possible. I want to have all of my different settings dialed in for the shoot tomorrow. That way I don't have to, again, think about that, and I can focus on the more important things. You kind of get the thesis of what we're getting at here. Trying to help ourselves, trying to help out future Troy, future you tomorrow. So going through our list, the first thing that we're going to be greeted with when we turn on our camera are the different exposure settings. So the first one, moving from left to right on the C70, is going to be your ND values. I like to set mine back to 0, so that way I don't inadvertently have ND on tomorrow when I didn't intend on it. So set the NDs down to 0. Aperture, set that accordingly. I'm going to have mine set to 2.8 already because depth of field is cinematic, right? So f2.8 to start. ISO, I like to keep my ISO at the base of 800. I'll go up to 3264 if I need to, but I like to start out where I can at the base ISO to get the best sensor performance. And then shutter angle, I have mine set to 180 as a baseline. Of course, the project may dictate something else. If you're using something other than the C70, get your shutter speed now set to double your frame rate. So if you're shooting 24 frames, get it to 1/150. We'll check that off our list. Now we're going to dive into the actual project settings, the settings that we're going to shoot this entire project in tomorrow. And I have custom menu 1 set up on my C70 dedicated to these specific project settings. And the first one is going to be resolution. You go ahead and set in the resolution here. I'll scroll down to the next tab on my custom menu 1, and this is where I'm going to select my file container. You could select RAW, you could select XAVC, what have you, whatever you need for your project tomorrow. My default, my go-to is XFAVC LongOp. That's the way that I've been shooting. I like the compression ratio to quality, and it edits well on my M1 MacBook Pro. So that's what I'm going to choose for my project settings. Set that accordingly for your shoot. The next custom menu item is going to be set aside for frame rate. And if we click in here, we'll see that my default is 23.976 is what I try to shoot most everything at. Earlier in my career, I would just default shoot at 60 frames so I could always get that crispy slow-mo. But I think that it's a bit of a crutch. So I'm trying to shoot more things just at 24 frames. And I've got a custom button mapped on my C70 to quickly adjust from 24 frames to 60 or 90 frames in slow and fast mode. If something is happening that I quickly want to be able to change to get that slow motion, but I default to 24 frames. So I'm going to just open that menu up, verify that that's what I'm shooting in for tomorrow so I know it's ready to go. So I'll close out of there and head down to my next custom menu items, which are going to be for initializing my media. I want to make sure that my cards are clean and they're ready to go and formatted for the camera. So go ahead and initialize both media slot A and media slot B on the C70, or whatever you need to do on your camera system to give yourself a clean slate for your media cards going into tomorrow. Cross that off your list and we'll move down to the last item on our checklist for the C70, and that is our audio interface. You can use custom button 13 on the back to open up this menu. Now we have 4 channels of audio that we can record on the C70. So take a look at this list now and make sure that you have the inputs mapped where you want them to be. So the way I often shoot, I often have a primary XLR microphone somewhere, and I like to have that mapped to channels 1 and 2. I set channel 1 to the appropriate gain level. Then I like to set channel 2 about 10 to 12 decibels lower than channel 1 as kind of a built-in safety track. In case I mess up, in case someone gets really loud all of a sudden, I can still retain that information without clipping it by just accessing my second channel. And then depending on the shoot, channels 3 and 4, this could be set up as your mic inputs. Sometimes I like to use this as just the scratch audio on the camera, so I have that as a backup for sync purposes if need be. Just take a look at those, make sure those are what they need to be for your shoot tomorrow. And then as far as the actual settings on the back of the camera, we have those rear control dials. As a baseline, I like to set channel 1 to around 5 on the dial, and then because I oftentimes have channel 2 as my backup, I dial that back to about 4 on the gain settings on the back of the C70. We'll go ahead and check that off the list, and that will do it for in-camera prep, which means it is time to pack. I love to pack gear. I'm very meticulous about the way that I do it. I'm always repacking to try to figure out a better way to do it, something I just find a lot of joy out of. If you can relate, let me know down in the comments below so I know I'm not alone, because my wife thinks I'm crazy and I have a ton of camera bags because I'm always just... Anyway, that's for another video. I like to pack in a very specific way so that way I can, at a glance, do a visual inspection of my bag and make sure that everything is there, because everything has a place and everything is in its place. So if there is an empty hole somewhere, then I know that I'm missing a piece of gear. And this comes in handy in a couple different situations. It comes in handy tonight while I am packing my bags, that way I know that I'm not forgetting to bring anything. But it also comes in handy at the end of the shoot tomorrow night when I'm packing up and I can look at my bag and say, yep, everything is in there. This is exactly how it looked when I got here this morning. So that way you're not losing and forgetting gear on location. So pack your bag in a way that you can do a visual inspection and make sure you have everything. Then go ahead and zip up your bag, grab your tripod, set it next to the door somewhere you're gonna have easy access to it. So that way tomorrow you can just grab it and walk out of the door and head to the job. Then I have just a few more action items for you before you head out the door for the shoot tomorrow. First one, get to bed at a good time tonight. Stop watching YouTube, go to bed, get some sleep. Tomorrow morning, eat a good breakfast. Here's a crazy idea. Maybe even drink some water and plenty of it. Do yourself a favor, set yourself up for success. Physically, you've done all this prep work already with your gear. Prep yourself for the day by doing some of these things. The next item is to review your shot list and any other pre-production materials. So you just got yourself physically prepared by getting a good night's sleep and drinking some water. Now mentally get yourself prepared for the day. Review any reference images. If you've done your pre-production homework, you might already have some music tracks that you want to use. Listen to those, begin to visualize the images that you're gonna capture the next day, and really get your mind in the right place by going through some of these pre-production steps. That way you're not making it up as you go when you get there, and you've done a little bit of prep work on that regard. The last thing for you to do is to leave early. Pull up Google Maps, pull up Apple Maps, whatever you're using, figure out how long it's gonna take to get there, and then give yourself an extra half hour. You never know what traffic's gonna be like. I can always guarantee that I'll have to stop and pee at some point along the way. You'll have to find parking and actually get to the location itself. That all takes time that I'm guilty of not factoring in. If you're late and you're driving in, it stresses you out. Do yourself a favor, wake up early so that way you can leave early, and it just puts your best foot forward. If you show up early, that is the professional thing to do, and that's what we're trying to do, is be more professional in our filmmaking and in our cinematography. That's what started this whole list. The difference between a professional and an amateur was all in the prep work. So do these things and you'll be off to a great start for your shoot tomorrow. I wish you the absolute best of luck. I'm pumped for you that you're able to make a career, make a living, make some money, have some fun, make some memories using a camera. It has absolutely changed my life using a camera, and I love that I get to have these conversations with you guys, sharing my experience, getting to understand your guys' experience as well. So let's head down to the comments. Let's make this a back and forth, a two-way conversation, so it's not just so one-sided, right? I love having that conversation with you guys down there. On your way, do all the YouTube things, hit like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.